You penned an essay entitled From Climate Crisis to Polycrisis that anchors the special section in our March 2024 issue. What is the polycrisis and what are the components that find confluence in it?
Right. Well, human society has always had problems, but sometimes the problems tend to sort of gang up on each other. And what's happening right now really doesn't have much of a precedent in human history because even though, as I say, sometimes problems gang up on each other, it's the scale of the problems that we're facing today that really makes the situation unique. We're talking about existential level crises like climate change, global climate change. Humans have never, I mean, weather is always changing and climate changes sometimes gradually, but the scale of climate change that's occurring now and in the pipeline over the next few decades, again, is kind of off the charts in comparison with anything in history. Then resource depletion. Humans have been depleting resources as long as we've used them, but the scale of resource depletion in the modern world, again, is off the charts. Everything from fossil fuels themselves to soil, water, fossil water that we extract from the ground and use, and it's not there anymore. Minerals, and then those are mostly non-renewable resources. Also, renewable resources like fish and forests, we're using them faster than they can regrow. So resource depletion is a serious problem now, but it's if current trends continue, it's likely to get to be a much more serious problem as the century wears on. Then the presence of toxic chemicals in the environment. Again, this is something that goes back in history. It's not something that humans have never done before, but again, it's the scale. We've introduced tens of thousands of new chemicals as a result of industrial processes into the environment, and in many cases in very, very large quantities. And we're seeing the impact on not only other species, but also humans themselves. Some of these chemicals are hormone mimicking chemicals that actually impact human reproduction. Male sperm counts have declined by about 50% in the last 70 years. And the rate of decline is increasing. So toxics are a much more serious problem than most people realize. Then there's the financial crisis. It erupts from time to time, like in 2008, and everyone gets really nervous from time to time. But overall, underneath the surface variations is the fact that we're building up a bigger and bigger mountain of debt of historically mammoth proportions. And this is happening because as the economy grows, people's expectations of future investment returns and profits also grows. And so there's the justification for taking on more and more debt. I'm not just talking about government debt, which many people get very frustrated about, but household debt, corporate debt, all of these categories of debt are increasing dramatically. If the economy stops growing for any reason, then suddenly a lot of debt becomes due or comes due, and there's the possibility of cascading debt crisis, which would wipe out many, many trillion dollars of wealth very quickly. Then there's political polarization. Again, nothing entirely new in human history, but it's happening at a time when we need to solve all these other problems. And if you don't have a functioning political system, then how do you deal with a problem like climate change, where everybody has to come together and make some sacrifices and agree on strategies and so on? We're not done yet. There are new technologies coming into play. At the forefront is artificial intelligence, which has the capacity to speed up all of these other trends. I mean, yeah, there are those who say that AI will be able to help us solve climate change, with all the sophisticated mathematics and so on, that we'll be able to identify the most effective pathways and technological interventions to head off climate change. But AI itself uses massive amounts of energy. And in just another, I don't know what it is, 2, 3, 4 years, it's going to be using more energy than many whole countries. So where's all that energy going to come from? In the immediate phase, it's going to come mostly from fossil fuels, because that's what's supplying 85% of current world energy. So, but that's just one of the threats of AI. AI is also going to increase, and that's another polycrisis threat, because we have been developing weapons over the last 80 years or so that are potentially civilization ending. Obviously, nuclear weapons, and sometimes we sort of take them for granted because they've been around so long. But governments are developing new ones all the time, including the U.S. government, and new countries are gaining access to nuclear weapons, including now North Korea. But also autonomous weapons that take AI-driven autonomous weapons that take the human element out of warfare. So any sense of compassion or self-limitation is just out the window. Chemical weapons, biological weapons. Again, AI will help with the development of more effective chemical and especially biological weapons, because AI is, everybody knows GPT. AI can string together words in ways that make meaning. Well, AI is also very good at stringing together genetic sequences. The letters of the DNA alphabet can be interpreted, reinterpreted, rearranged very effectively. And there's the NVIDIA, which is one of the foremost companies developing AI, is hard at work on a chatbot that, instead of using language, is using the DNA alphabet, so that you put in, right now with ChatGPT, you can put, well, I want an essay on, the French Revolution or something, and it'll spit out a, a comprehensible essay. Well, what do you say? Well, I want an organism that will have these particular characteristics, and there you go. So are we finished here? Yeah, that's enough. I've just given you 7 of these. And so again, it's the confluence of all of these threats and the fact that they're mutually interacting. It's not as though we can just play whack-a-mole and we'll get climate change over here, and we'll get nuclear weapons over there, and we'll stay on top of these problems. The way we're solving climate change is to replace current energy usage with renewable energy sources like solar and wind, which requires a lot more resource depletion and will produce more toxic chemicals. So until we get a handle on the process that's driving the polycrisis, we're just going to be trying to deal with individual problems in ways that are completely inadequate, because new problems will keep arising.